Hello, good morning. Welcome to another All Hands on Deck. I'm Katherine McBean, and today I'm going to talk to you about decentralization. People have heard me gobbing off about this for years, and I've never really explained what it's about and why I think it would be so beneficial for our country. And I absolutely think it's the way forward in terms of solving the issues that we currently have. And I was inspired to do this video on the back of Rupert's announcement about his Great Yarmouth Party. And it got me kind of excited actually, because it does support a route to a decentralized system in the UK. So when I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, go Rupert. I love that. Thank you. So what I want to do is just kind of briefly today go through what we've got and why I think what I think we should have and what are the benefits of that and why Rupert's model of what he's doing with the Great Yarmouth Party would help to achieve the goals that we want to achieve. So I think as we're all becoming increasingly aware, we are controlled by centralized systems. And you can go back to the central government, you can look at things like DEFRA, the NHS, how these are national organizations in place and control from a centralized position. So the NHS UK or NHS England, whatever it's called now, that will control what all the hospitals do. And when they come to buying, when they come to purchasing, everything's moved from the hospital itself, which is what was once the situation in terms of buying drugs, machinery, booking staff in, all the rest of it. It was all done on a local level, and now it's everything centralized. And that's just one example. You can look at food production, you can look at education, and we'll run through those briefly. But everything sort of got slowly, as we know they do, by stealth, moved to a centralized position. Not only that, actually, you can go bigger than that. And I wrote a little list, just a really 30-second list. And this is what other centralized, bigger organizations are out there that are controlling us. Excuse me, my coffee needs drinking. So we've got the EU, we've got NATO, we've got big European think tanks, which have far more influence over our political position than I'm remotely comfortable with. We have the Bilderberg Group. We know that they're unelected, centralized elitist people who come together and make decisions for the rest of the world. No one voted for them. No one gave them that right in terms of we voters, we the people. So, Council for Foreign Relations, you've got the Fabian Society in the UK, which is slightly different. World Trade Organization, you've got Five Eyes, you've got the ECHR. And then when you come back to the national control systems, you've got the DVLA, the NHS, UK Education, you've got DEFRA, Highways England, DWP, HMRC. And then you can look at the supermarkets and the big agri companies, big chemical companies, and on it goes. Now, once upon a time, this was all done at a local level. Certainly, when you look at things like food production, that's a really easy one to see. And I probably use that as an example to explain the problems with that. But what went from localized production, localized control, localized management, over decades, slowly over the years, moved to a more centralized position. And this is where a lot of our problems came into play, which is why I'm so adamant about the decentralized model being key to the success of returning power back to the people, but also ensuring we have more autonomy, we have more sovereignty as a local region, we have more control on an individual level, and we have more say. Really, truly democratically, we have more say in a decentralized model, right? Get rid of the coffee. So we're done. We're awake. So these policies at the moment, these groups at the moment, these centralized organizations at the moment, they make the decisions that affect our lives on a daily basis. And so many of them are unelected. So many of them we did not choose to be a part of. Now, I'm not saying we don't have international connect with with allies, connect with other groups, work together in certain ways, absolutely. But ultimately, We need our sovereignty, and we have a right to that sovereignty. And it just blows my mind still to this day that people don't see this. They just think, oh, yeah, you're a part of the EU because we're friends. Let's take emotion out of the situation and let's look at things from a logical point of view. How do the people in the EU know what's best for somebody who lives in Cornwall? They don't. They don't. Even if we take aside the fact that we know they're pretty much evil, they still do not understand what happens on a regional or local level. Central government does not truly grasp what happens in each region or what the people are like there. We're all different. We all have different strengths. If you look at farming, for example, go over to the east of the country, they're mainly arable because of the climate, because of the landscape. That's what they focus on. Personally, as I've said before, think they need to move to a more mixed farming approach, which is still very, very doable. But what they find in terms of challenges looks very different to a Welsh hill sheep farmer, for example. That looks really different, and each area understands their climate, their landscape, their abilities, their soil. They understand that so much better than anybody sat in central government. There's also the control element as well. You know, the more power that goes to them, the less that we have, we the people. And really, we should control the power in this country. You know, we've gone through history for so many years, and it's always us that, you know, the bloody servants who lose out. And actually, we've got an opportunity here as this massive shift in this great awakening takes place for people to understand the benefits of sovereignty, the benefits of empowerment at a local level, and how important that is to ensure the globalists can never take control again. And this is one of the bottom lines with a decentralized system. It absolutely is the antithesis to a globalist controlled country. And we don't want to be controlled by the globalists. We absolutely want the opposite of that. And a decentralized model destroys their model. That's what people need to grasp here. The decentralized model it obliterates their model because it brings control and power back to the people at a local level. And this is why I'm excited by Rupert's party. What he's suggesting here, and if I understand it correctly, and I'll explain it in a little bit, would absolutely help to build a decentralized model moving forward for the people of the UK. So I'm what I'm seeing at the moment, I'm all for it. We've had this monopolization of the capital markets. What we actually need to do is stimulate the local economy. And again, a decentralized model supports that. And I'll go through that now. So why do we want to decentralize for each region? Because we can now customize policies for each region. You don't have to have a central government do that. Premise, before I move forward, I understand that whilst I think county councils should become far more empowered and feed back that power to town, city, district, village, whatever councils, I understand the corruption that is currently within county councils moving forward. So we need to doge every county council. I'd go back to city, district, possibly town council, if I'm honest. I think we need to remove the corruption with immediate effect. That's first and foremost, because you cannot have a decentralized model if corruption still runs within it. The corruption needs to be removed, and that's far easier for us to push for at a local level than it is at a central level. Again, proving my point, power back to the people. So how could that look? Well, looking at some of the key components of society that we need to consider and look at the difference from a national to a local regional model is things like education. At the moment, the policies are set by central. Why should that not be done at a regional level? Why can that not be done and allow the schools to dictate what elements of the curriculum they adopt? We obviously need a lot more schools, and I think we need smaller schools, and I think local people get to have a voice in what their children are taught, and that's far easier to do if it's managed at a local level than at a national level. Let's face it, a lot of us aren't overall, excited about the curriculum. We're not excited about how schools look nowadays. We're not excited about sending our children to school. In fact, for a lot of parents, it's actually a concern. In a decentralized model, what you could do is the national budget, if you like, for each person. And you can do this with health as well. is that budget is allocated to the person, not to the school, not to the hospital or the or local health environment. It is then allocated for the individual. In health, we don't have that so much, but we could introduce that without too many problems. And then it's up to the individual how they spend that money. So for a lot of people, at the moment, we've got you go to the local school, whichever one is the most local one. Actually, you could have varying different approaches within the education system that some suit some kids more, some suit another kid more, and that is allowed. You could also have more homeschooling groups, like proper groups that are established within each village, town, whatever it might be, and then the funding could be allocated to them. So that's another benefit of a decentralized system. And why should the power not go back to the schools who can then run with the curriculum? And don't get me wrong, we can have national curriculums, but they don't need to be controlled by central government. Let's allow for some common sense. Let's allow for the local people to have a say in what that curriculum, for example, could look like. And with blockchain technology, so much could happen where people could have a voice. For example, the county council could put out a referendum on some really big issues that affect that county, and the people get to vote. Just going to put that in there. So with health, it could be the same thing. I mean, we need to bring back, I personally think, a lot more of the cottage hospital type of buildings. We could bring back, because if you think about it now, I know in my local area that all these little hospitals that are around have all gone. They've all gone, and now you've got to go miles and miles. And the bigger hospitals have become less. They do less. So then you've got to head to the main cities in order to get treatment for certain things. Now, this just is just more, heaviness and hassle and difficulty for people when you think about transportation and the logistics of it. Trust me, I've been there, and it is a pain in the backside. So let the councils flip and decide how that money's spent, and let that come back to the people. And again, let them have a say. We don't get a say anymore. We don't get heard anymore, and we don't get considered anymore. This is no longer about we, the people. It's about their buddies and their big organizations that they send these ridiculous contracts to, which are not cost effective for the we, the people. We need real, honest people being able to be in a position where they can jump in and help and do a genuinely good job for their region. And it isn't controlled somewhere in the center. They don't have to deal with the bureaucracy of that. So again, a decentralized process. When it comes to food production, this is a huge one for me. I've watched, because I this is my area of interest. I have watched over the years as more and more and more becomes centralized. So you've got these huge producers like Two Sisters who are just absolutely massive. And believe me when I say they have a big role in dictating what the price of feed looks like, for example, or the price of bedding looks like, for example, or all biosecurity products. These guys get to control the markets to some degree because they work directly with the manufacturers and the producers. This then takes power away from the farmers. And I could give you 100, I'm not even exaggerating, 100 examples of this happening because over time it's become more and more centralized. So all these local, regional, little businesses that used to do all of this stuff and supply the local farmers and producers have just been knocked out. The buying groups, farmers used to go to local buying groups where they just let you get together to buy their oil or buy their feed or whatever. And because they could buy a bigger amount, they'd get a bigger discount and they'd share it out amongst themselves. These buying groups even have become nationalized. So actually they are controlled. They are controlled. So again, farmers get less say. Bring back the local buying groups, bring back the local business, the local production, the local processes, the local distribution, because you have far more control. And what that does is it allows for real resilience, to become more self-sufficient as a region, as a local area, means you have more resilience and they have less control. They have far less control. Plus, there are like I said, there's regional differences, and we can allow for adaptation to suit for those local regions. But again, the people get more say. And when it comes to things like politics, it's so much easier to access your local representatives than your national representatives. So if these regional and local representatives have far more power, it means we in turn have far more power. So you're taking it away from those that are more nationally focused. trying to give MPs, I hate to do it, but trying to give MPs more of the benefit of the doubt, they've got an awful lot to manage if they're trying to do everything through a national structure. If you have more people representative at a local level, they don't have to try and deal with so much. It takes the pressure off the MPs to focus on what truly are national issues, of which there aren't that many if you're allowing for a decentralized system. But there are always going to be some. I mean, we've got to be realistic here. There's always going to be some. But you know, we've got to start changing our mindset. And I think what Rupert's doing is really going to help that, and I'm hoping, and it's really exciting for me. So, income rates and council tax rates can be set at a local level. Why are the government dictating what that looks like? Each region is different. As long as you're removing corruption from those regional and local councils, as long as you're removing the corruption from that, and you have genuine patriots in those positions, you are able to then know that what they're going to do is going to be best for that region. And they can be voted in and out. We can set systems up. There's none of this anymore. Oh, you know, we're going to give you 4 years and then see how you're doing. No, we need people who are going to move fast, who are going to move swiftly, and who are passionate and feel honoured to represent the people of their region. So we need to stimulate the local economies, localized manufacturing, food production, processing, distribution, the whole works. Bring it back to a local level. And then what you'll see as well is we're suddenly challenging the supermarkets properly. We're suddenly challenging the big processors who, quite frankly, their farming is beyond disgusting. And I could tell you stories about that. Where I've been on site and I've seen what it's like, and it's not nice at all. It's disgusting. It makes me feel quite sick, actually. And so each region knows its own requirements better than a central government. So we need to consider those national allowances. We need to think about the resilience of supply chains. If you're doing it at a local level, there'll be economic rebalancing because different regions have different challenges. And again, the central government doesn't allow for that. You need the local governments to allow for that. And democratic renewal, like I say, we have far more transparency, far more accessibility to our representatives. With blockchain kind of voting systems, you get far more say. And it truly does become far more democratic. What we've got at the moment is so incredibly undemocratic, it's ridiculous. What I like about Rupert's Great Yarmouth Party and what the benefits will be that people will start to see, I believe, is there'll be a hyper local focus. So he's going to be looking at that local region. That's going to be his point of focus. And as people who are across this country, and we get the choice of all these national parties to vote for, actually, how many of them really understand each region? That understands that region. I know MPs that cross over different regions that they don't live in, so they don't fully understand it because of the numbers. You know, they want to get the numbers coverage and stand a chance. So it's all done very strategically. And I understand why they do that. But actually, if you've got a party directly focused on your region, you don't have to worry about that nonsense. What I like is you won't have a whip either. It's independent from national politics. So that's a huge point. It's independent from national politics. Again, laser focused on that region. And how do you think the people of that region feel knowing there's a party dedicated to supporting them? That's pretty powerful. Rupert's party can give support for traditional industries in that region. And again, we've all got different areas. If you think back even 30, 40 years in terms of what you can do in that region. Different regions of the UK have different strengths in terms of industry, in terms of manufacturing, in terms of economic stimulation. We all have our different strengths, and actually to have a party that can hone in on that. How brilliant is that? Rather than trying to do it at a national level, which is this huge project, ginormous project, which doesn't take into consideration regional differences, that localized party would be able to do that. And I'm in no doubt that Rupert would probably be looking at that. Again, this is the bit that excites me. And I think Rupert gets this. It can be grassroots driven. So the people get a voice. They can go directly to this party and say, hey, guys, this is in this town or in this, little part of the Great Yarmouth region, we've got this problem. Those guys could be hyper focused on that rather than trying to look at a national picture, which is far more difficult. And I don't know about you, but I just much prefer the idea of being able to access a local party who's there to represent me rather than a national party who's there to represent everybody. And you don't have to worry about things like winning the vote based on race and culture and DEI and all that nonsense. You can just take that out of the picture, completely take that out of the picture. And then there's potential for stronger representation, like I say, because they're going to be hyper focused. So what he's doing, he's taking the power and control away from central parliament and government, and he's bringing it back to his local area. And I nearly cried with joy when I saw him put this out there because the people will get far greater say, and he will understand those people. He will understand his region. He will understand their needs, and he can represent them in that form. Imagine if every region did that. Like, I started a party for my region. I know the local issues. I know what they're up against here. I know what needs to be done. Do I know what that looks like in Liverpool? No, I don't. I don't because I don't live there. So how is somebody in? So you got one MP for that region. It's not enough. It's not good enough. And when you've taken the power away from the grassroots, so through the town council, village council, district council, whatever it might be, it only goes one way. We've watched our county councils get broken down. So, our for example, South Somerset District Council used to be the main council for this region. Everyone went to SSDC. Everyone knew that it was accessible. They had actual buildings here that you could go and knock on the door. It could all be done. And then over time, we've watched it become Somerset Council. And it's this big behemoth where they don't really know what's going on at a local level. Think about the economics as well. If you've got corruption in there, that's far easier to deal with at a very local level than at county level. Let's be honest. You can't access the county council now. All this nonsense needs to stop. It all needs to stop. And if we're going to save our country, we need to take the power out of the hands of the globalists and the central government. And this is the way to do it. Decentralization is the way to do it. Like I said, it's the antithesis to global politics. And this is why we need to support these localized the birth of local parties for a local region, plus everything else. There's plenty of things we can do on the ground in order to help, if you like, with local food production, help with local homeschooling groups, help with holistic and alternative routes to health at a local level. There is plenty we can do, but I'm really excited by the fact that Rupert, who really seems to be pretty much the only MP who's truly trying to represent we the people, he's proposed this. So this is an exciting moment, and I want everyone to understand the benefits of doing this and why it's so important we all get out there and push for a decentralized system in the UK. It doesn't matter whether you're just waking up. It doesn't matter if you're way down the line in a 5D capacity and understand that actually in the bigger picture, we kind of don't really need huge amounts of politics in our lives, certainly not at a centralized level. The decentralized system will work for everybody, irrelevant of where you are on your thinking at the moment, because it allows you to become more powerful, to be able to be more sovereign, and to be able to have a say, have a voice. So I just wanted to share that this morning, just as a kind of actual benefit of a decentralized system, and why I think Rupert is going to try and take things in that direction, why I absolutely applaud that. And if that is what he's doing, I will offer all my help as free as possible to support him in doing that. And I'm seriously looking at potentially doing it in my own region sometime next year. So let's see what happens. Let's see what rolls out. It's been a crazy week. It's all been happening, and I think it's only going to keep going in this direction. Very exciting times. But thank you so much for listening. Please do share this with other people, because I want people to start shifting that mindset away from accepting what we've got, accepting the status quo, and understanding we can all take steps like Rupert's doing. You don't have to be super rich and an elite MP or something to achieve this. We can all do what Rupert's doing and setting up a party in our own region. We can all get involved with localized food production. We can all get involved with expanding on localized education. There are so many options available to us. It's all incredibly exciting. I hope everyone has a marvelous weekend. God bless. And if you're out there and you're panicking about stuff and you're worried about things, don't. everything's going all right. Everything's going okay. I'm pretty pleased with how it's all going. But this is an exciting, I don't know if anyone's understood the significance. So please do share this because this is a pretty exciting moment. Anyway, God bless and have a great weekend.